On Kiss 92.
Good morning. Sometimes getting out of bed in the morning is a lot to deal with all at once.
No Glenn and Angel. It's Angel, your bro Tim O, as well as your other bro Adrian Choo. Good morning.
Oh, yeah.
The two bros in the house.
How you doing, bro?
Very good. It's coming to the end of the June holidays, so for those of you folks out
Who
there
are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You
only
see a
one
big
more
smile
week.
on my face, right? Charlie goes back to school on Monday.
Not even one more week.
Oh, a couple more
What,
days.
3 more sleeps?
Yeah.
Okay, hang in there. We're here to keep you entertained. Right now, we are talking about downshifting. Shifting.
Downshifting, yes. Okay.
Downshifting. So, in the past couple of months, I've had clients who've been coming up to me and telling me that, I'm feeling kind of burnt out, I'm feeling kind of tired. Can I downshift? I want to take something that's smaller, less stressful,
Less responsibility.
intense, less responsibility,
Less pay.
less pay even.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the answer is, why not? See, why not? But unfortunately, there are certain misconceptions around it. People are saying that, no, will it affect my career? How will it look bad on me? It'll make me look like a burnout, a washout.
Yeah.
So I thought today might be a good time to start thinking about, is there a strategy
Yeah.
to
So
downshifting?
why would people want to downshift in the first place? I mean, this has to be coming from people who are very well established, got a good fat bank account, and can take the risk of, because financially also that will downshift, right?
Yes. So I think we need to define downshift first.
Okay.
So a downshift move is a deliberate and intentional move to something less stressful, less intense, maybe even less salary.
Would you consider this like a demotion?
And that's the problem, you see. A lot of people think that
They see it like
downshift
that.
is like a demotion. I take a small role because I'm washed out. So I've had a client who was covering the whole region for Asia Pacific, and she was traveling like 80% of the time,
Yeah.
which is not fun in the long run. Not good for your health either, right?
Especially when you have a family and commitments and
Right.
people waiting for you at home.
And she was getting quite. She felt that her health was suffering, so she decided to take on a single country role.
Yeah.
As a country head. So from a regional role to a single country head, it's in terms of responsibility, it's still almost the same, different type of responsibility, but it's just less intense.
Right.
So, but she felt she didn't want to do it because she felt it was a downshift. And I thought, no, it's not a downshift because your salary didn't move at all,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But mentally, she was saying that I'm downshifting. Is it good or bad? Does it look bad on me? And I said, no, it's okay. So therefore, downshifting means different things to different people, but by and large, people still think it's a smaller work, less pay.
Can I ask, what age range she was in?
She was in the 40s.
Okay, all right. So I mean, if say you start your career in your early 20s, you have worked for quite a while already.
For
I can
20
understand,
years,
that she's been grinding for how many decades already. She
Yeah.
wants a break, and I think having spoken to my wife as well, who has had this conversation with me, multiple times about downshifting. I think there is a misconception. A lot of people, myself included, for a long time, right, thought that, the higher you go, right, maybe things get easier, because you reach a point where you got kakians, you got people to do all the legwork,
Your
then you
minions.
can just you can lay back, let everybody else do the work, and you'll have an easier time. But that is hardly ever the case. The higher you go, yes, your pay might go up, but your workload and your responsibility goes up exponentially as well.
It's a different kind of stress.
Yeah.
So that's why, and the truth of it is, you cannot just keep accelerating your career forever because you're going to burn out. I mean, we are looking at a 40-year, even 50-year career.
Are people not wanting to downshift, like this lady who wanted to take a country role over the regional role, right? She was thinking to herself, even though her pay didn't shift, right? She was thinking to herself, but what are people going to think?
Yes.
It's more of a reputation thing and a judgment thing from the outside than anything else.
And sometimes it's an ego thing from inside.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about that. Right now, here's Lady Gaga with Abracadabra. Join us on The Big Show TV. Right? It's more a face thing, right?
And
They're afraid of
sometimes-
what people might think and say.
I absolutely agree with you. So the thing that comes to mind, which I always teach my kids, is this all very overused saying about, when I was young, I worried about what people thought about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was in my 20s or 30s, I said, I don't care what people think about me. And when I'm in my 50s, I realized that no one was thinking about me.
Exactly. Because nobody really cares.
No one really cares.
No
but
one
it's
does.
sort of ego
Yeah.
wise for some people, they don't want to do it. But this is a case where it was a lateral move into something which she actually enjoyed doing. So I think that's okay. But for some individuals who want to downshift, the reasons could be like what you mentioned, work-life balance.
Yeah.
It could be that sometimes you're just bored. Or sometimes it could be you're in a different season in life.
Right.
Where suddenly now I don't have to
Yeah,
drive,
we
so I
spoke
don't have
about
to
seasons
grind.
the last
Yeah.
time, but is there is there an optimal time in your life, in your career to do a downshift? Because strategically as well, I mean, if I've just started my career, I don't want to downshift because
Where are you
it goes on my-
downshifting to?
Also because it goes onto my resume, right?
Yeah.
And then prospective employers next time will be like, hey, you just started, then you downshift. Is there something wrong with you? I may not necessarily want to hire you next time. So these are all considerations as well to be made strategically, right?
Yeah, correct. So if you're starting out, if you're 25 and you want to downshift, you're right, Angel, downshift from what, right? But if you were to take a sabbatical, however, or if you just stop a break, and then you take it, then you do something else, like, start building homes for orphans in Myanmar or something like that.
Yep.
Then it's no longer a downshift. It's more like a sabbatical, a career break.
And make sure that goes into your resume.
Yeah, that goes into your resume.
So I shared with you this article about work-life balance, and we were talking about
Yeah.
downshifting from where, if you're, say, a Gen Zer, because a Gen Z, what we were saying, the age range is like
21?
27 is like the oldest or
Oh,
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like 18 to 27. So there was an article, a Randstad survey that said work-life balance is the most important for Gen Xers, I get. That's us.
Yep.
Millennials, okay. And then Gen Zers. But what work-life balance are they talking about? I mean, barely, some of them are still maybe in school, like finishing it off, or just got into the employment world.
Yep.
So they're already talking about work-life balance. Is there such a thing at that age?
I think it's more their own expectations.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they're looking at... And also, I put the blame squarely on parents who spoil their kids, guilty as charged, but also influencers, TikTokers who tell them, oh, this is the van life.
Yes.
It's so easy, you just go. And then you start looking like, hey, actually quality of life is so important, And I'm going to say something really unpopular here. I think, as I said earlier, the parents spoil the kids because when we graduated, we had to sink or swim.
Yes.
Right, the money. Right now, I tell my kids, you don't have to rush too much. No,
Oh,
you can always
no.
stay. Because I miss that.
Until you figure out what it is you want to do, right?
Sometimes I do that, but then I realize the folly of my way, and I feel like, no, when you graduate, I'm going to charge you rent. I don't care.
So you think a lot of these kids who are going into the workforce go into it with very unrealistic expectations?
Yeah, I think so.
I
too.
think, I think not just expectations. I think their parents are still willing to house them. So going into the workforce,
Yeah.
and not paying rent and utilities and your own phone bill and your own transport is not counted as working. That's just allowance.
And I mean, would you say that maybe a consideration is also the fact that here in Singapore, people are encouraged to stay with their parents for a much longer time as well. So
And
they
it's
don't
an
really
Asian
feel
society,
They
yeah.
don't feel that motivation to really have to go
Go
out and-
anywhere.
yeah.
I mean, I know. Okay, maybe I shouldn't mention it, but some people who are still living with their families after the age of 40. You know what I mean? And it's very normal.
And I think it's okay, right? Yeah, if that's what you want
If you're
to.
contributing,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
it's normal. I
Not
don't
depending
think.
on them,
yeah,
right?
no, not
as long as
freeloading.
you're not freeloading.
Don't freeload, please.
Yeah, like what you mentioned, no, it's your mobile phone still being paid by mom.
Right? Yeah.
that, right?
Or the heater and the lights and
Utilities,
whatnot.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think for individuals who are younger, there is a bit more emphasis on not so much the work-life balance, but the quality of life. So they do realize, especially coming out from COVID, that it's not all about work. I would like to see the world. And, looking back, I would actually have told my younger self, travel more before the kids came along.
Yeah, but all this takes money, right?
But now that your
Yeah.
kids are grown up, you can travel
That's what we
without
do.
them.
That's
yeah,
what we do.
without them.
But now I got a dog, which is even more.
Get the children
expensive
to look
house.
after them.
Yeah.
That's what kids are for.
Okay, so here's a question. Regardless of which age you are, okay, when you decide to make that decision to downshift, because yes, many times, to your point, Angel, it will come with a pay cut as well. Less responsibilities,
that's
less pay as well.
Of course,
Do you think people are willing to accept a change in their living quality? Okay, because, when we talk quality of life, you got more time and all that, but I may not be able to afford as many holidays. I may not be able to buy as many things. That will come with a downshift and a lower salary.
There's a price to pay for everything, right? Yeah.
Which reminds me of that old Jack Nicholson movie. I think it was Helen Hunt. Something's got to give.
Something's got to give, yeah.
Something's got to give.
I love
Ultimately,
that.
something's got to give. You like it or not, you want less stress, less pay. But hence a caveat. Do we have time? I've got a story to tell.
No, we don't actually. We have 35 seconds. Tell the story on
I will
air.
do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Traffic's coming up.
You know me like no other. Gotta tell me now. See me like no other.
Kiss 92 traffic.
West Coast Highway towards Tuas, an accident at West Coast Highway flyover. Please avoid the left lane. On the SLE towards CTE, heavy traffic between Woodlands Avenue 12 and Mandai Avenue exit. PIE towards Changi Airport, vehicle breakdown after Pasir Laba. TPE towards PIE, vehicle breakdown after Pasir Ris Drive 8 exit. And yes, plenty happening on the roads. Be safe, and if you drive a manual car, slow down, maybe downshift a bit.
Ha ha ha, so funny. That's exactly what we're talking about today. Downshifting with Adrian Choo of Career Agility International. If you have any questions, it's info@careeragility.org. So some mid-career or senior executives have been asking you whether it's okay to slow down or take a more junior role. And with that, obviously, comes a downshift of salary as well, right? You had a story to share.
So I had this client who was a senior finance person. So she was making about 14K a month. Okay. And she said the work is really stressful. I'm working very late at night, lots of things to do, lots of moving parts. Because she was working in a multinational company.
Yep.
And she said, I don't mind taking a pay cut for a less stressful job. And she got another job, which was a finance manager, okay, at a small local company. And the salary was about $8,000. And she said, I think that's okay. I can afford that, I can afford that. So she quit a job, took that role, and realized that $8,000 job was just as stressful because it's a smaller company with fewer resources, longer hours, more demanding boss. So that's why it's not always about the money as an indicator of amount of work or intensity that you have to do.
Yep.
So sometimes it's a different pond, but it can be just as busy.
It's relative,
And now-
right? The size.
Stress could also come. I mean, back to the whole money thing. Stress could come from other areas, right?
correct.
Because now you're making less money. How will you afford, all those other things that you are used to? Now, would you say that maybe also, the kind of era that we're in, because if it's a digital era and all that, a lot of this stress also comes because now you are connected all the time, right? So maybe back in the day when we were first, getting into the career, when you end work, you end work. There wasn't really email. There wasn't like WhatsApps.
Yeah.
Your bosses weren't trying to call you throughout the entire. You didn't bring back laptops to do your work with. But now you are expected to be on call, on duty, on standby all the time.
You could pull out your telephone plug if you didn't want anyone to call you.
Oh, your
Back then,
broadband.
right?
Yeah.
It's like phone ringing. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Hang up the phone.
Line got
It's
cut.
like, those are the days. And I think it's a matter of discipline and boundaries. So one of the things we always tell our clients is, do not encourage bad behavior.
Yeah.
If your boss messages you at 11 o'clock at night, or 1 a.m. at night, don't go in and go, hey, this is what you're encouraging him to message you even more at 1. You're telling him, I'm awake at 1. What else can I do for you, sir? So no, just don't. I don't know blue tick.
Yeah, but
but
that's
you
the same thing I do for emails as well. If someone sends me an email, say at 7 p.m. in the evening, I won't reply to it until the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to reply to it, schedule it so they don't think you're ready
Yeah.
to answer it 24/7.
But there's also a lot of pressure. I get, especially people who are just starting out. You want to impress your boss, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
hopefully this will then help you climb the corporate ladder,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
why you want to be like, "Ooh, I'm always on standby.
I'm so
Oh,
eager."
available. I am reliable, and you can depend on me."
Yeah.
Right?
If that's the positioning, I think it's fine. And if it's very urgent, like if the boss needs piece of information before his 5 a.m. flight tomorrow,
Yeah.
and he needs it at 1 a.m., and if you have it, then,
I don't know, man. Some people just pull that urgent card. You know, they're
Yeah.
like, I need it now. I need it now.
that's the pain of it.
Okay, let's continue this conversation on the Big Show TV. Join us on YouTube at Kiss 92 FM. The time right now is 8:20.
Kiss 92 Time Check by Pu Tian.
Okay. So here's the question, okay? Supposing I have made the decision that I do want to downshift, okay? What are the considerations I have to keep in mind?
I think the first thing is money. Because
Yeah.
a downshift normally involves a cut in salary.
You need to be
Normally,
prepped.
usually. So you have to make sure that you can afford the lifestyle.
Yeah, like what you were saying, you know, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
going from 14 to 8,
Yeah.
can you still afford the dinners out and the shopping and the organic groceries or whatever, you know?
Organic
Okay, no, it's
groceries.
true.
Afford oat milk anymore.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much organic groceries are? It's like a head of broccoli is like $8, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
compared to $1.50 or whatever.
Okay. Aside from the money?
And I think the thing that people don't consider is there is a timeline to it. Because some people just want to downshift for now. Maybe you got to timeline it. Is it a permanent thing? If you're in your 50s and you decide, okay, maybe I just don't want to have all the stress of corporate shenanigans anymore. I'll just permanently downshift. But some individuals don't mind.
Can you trial downshift?
Yeah, you could.
No, I mean seriously, like
How
ask.
would we do
No,
this?
you ask. So you're in the same company.
Yep.
And then you ask your boss, you know, like I'm feeling really stressed. I feel like I need less work. I don't mind taking a pay cut, whatever it is. Say you move from this position to this position, but you tell them, I want to see how it works for me. I mean, if you're a really great employee, I don't see why the company will say, you know what, okay, we have somebody else that can sit in your role, but then I want to come back in 3 months if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I've had individuals who have done what I call a temporary sabbatical, temporary break. So in other words, instead of working 5 days a week, they say, okay, look, next quarter, I would like, due to personal reasons, I want to work 2 days.
So that's not really
Cut me down, cut my salary down accordingly.
but same role.
Same role.
Okay.
Okay.
I've actually heard of a story, right? In this company where unfortunately it requires you work in pairs, okay? So it was basically there were two people who were kind of interested in downsizing. So what they did is they took
Downshifting.
sorry, and they took this one position, they split it into two. And so they literally took half a responsibility
Okay.
each, right? And then because there were two people, they hired a full-timer to cover the other person's full-time job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But
okay.
this downshifting, like I said, you know, they had two people who were willing to take half.
Two carrying the
half
weight,
responsibility, half to pay as well.
Oh,
But there are
must be quite a big paycheck though. I mean, to be able to split that in half.
But there's a downside to it as well as a risk, because you might disappear. You might go on, say, okay, I'll just work 2 days a week. And suddenly the boss says, hey, that's a great arrangement because you've been that unproductive anyway. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't miss any output from you. And then they say, okay, then let's make it permanent.
Oh, you get competition from the other half
Oh, the
saying,
other
you know,
half,
I'm
yeah.
going to do everything and I'm going to take your job and get the entire salary. Why do you need two people?
Yeah, so lots of complications. I think it has to be well thought out. You know, to answer the original question, should I do a downshift? Is it okay? I think as long as you have a strategy to it, in terms of your financial strategy, your timelines, what exactly you want to do. Because as I said earlier, a downshift doesn't just mean a smaller job. It could be a different job, less intense.
Yep.
Equal.
What about from the employer's point of view? If someone came up to them and wanted a downshift, how should the employer approach this?
And that's a great question, because if you say no, the person will just quit. So oftentimes it's a matter of balance. And one of the key reasons why, honestly speaking, one of the key reasons why people decide to downshift is because of burnout. For my experience, because of burnout. And
Because
it's-
nobody wants a lesser pay as well,
Yeah,
right?
Correct. So either a burnout but mostly it's a burnout or browning out situation. Brownout is the time before you get actually burnt.
Yep.
Right? You're already sensing that things are not right with your body. So as a smart employer, I would say, okay, fine, let's take some time off. If you want to downshift for now, let me support you on this journey. Instead of losing the person totally.
Yeah.
So we have Sheikh on YouTube that says, it's okay to downshift if it means a better, happy life regardless of what you do. I downshifted to a different role and I have never been happier because my goals are different now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that word comes up a lot, quality of life, right? But if you really look into it, if you want to have a longer life which you can actually enjoy, and I'll tell you a true story. So one of my really good friends, she was working in this company for a really long time, very good at what she does. Obviously, when you are good, they always say it, right? But the reward for good work is...
Power!
There you go, right? And she was getting these headaches, right? And she went for one of those checkups, did an MRI, and they found an aneurysm, a small aneurysm in her. And the doctors we're so glad we caught it when we did, right? But it's those years, just day in, day out, the stress, almost at the point where you become so used to it, you don't even feel it, but you don't recognize what it's doing to your body.
That is sad.
Derming says, I think the biggest fear is like the story you shared earlier. When you move to a lower paying job that is just as intense, the lady you said. And then somebody else came on and said, this almost sounds like an FWA discussion.
What's that from there?
Flexible work arrangement.
Okay.
Yes,
I was like,
it does.
Okay, is it?
Yeah, so flexible work arrangement is something that is going around right now. So you can either reduce the number of hours that you're working, reduce or change the location, or work from home. So in other words, flexi work. And that's a discussion you need to have with your boss.
Is this something that came up because of COVID? I mean, that everybody was like, I want to work from home. Okay, no, everybody has to come back to the office. Okay, can we compromise? Is that where it all started? Is it Gen Z and millennial
I think
inspired?
Interesting. A lot of Gen Xers want to do that as well because, and a lot of the downshifters I meet are Gen Xers.
Oh,
yeah, well,
okay.
I mean,
I know it's in the 50s.
recognize,
like,
yeah.
They're at that space though. I mean,
But-
they've
but-
got a bank account. They've got a life established.
Yes, and unfortunately, a lot of them are forced to downshift because they've gotten too expensive.
Yeah.
Some of the guys that say, okay, I'm way too expensive. There are no roles out there, so I
They
take a
have
smaller
gotten
one.
too expensive.
They have gotten too expensive.
Oh, because of all
So
the
they are like
experience.
$300,000, $400,000, and suddenly then there's not much demand for such seniority, such senior levels anymore.
Yep.
Suddenly they go, okay, I don't mind taking a manager role.
Why is there no more demand for such senior levels? I mean, companies still need it, right?
Well, the old glory days of fat margins and big like IT companies where you would have multi-million-dollar deals and everything. Now it's not there anymore. Like oil prices, the margins are not as good as. When I was in Shell, oil was at $18 a barrel. So
And now?
It's about 60 plus, 70.
Wow. Yeah.
So the margins were a lot fatter then.
Yeah.
And therefore you could have fat paychecks.
Okay.
Okay, continuing on what Angel brought up earlier about how looking from a company's perspective, an employer's perspective, right? What are the concerns of the downsides, the risks maybe of letting your staff or too many of your staff turning into an environment where you are supportive of downsizing? or
Everyone
downshifting?
downshifts. Suddenly you're...
1 minute left. Yeah. You can carry on.
I think once again, for the individual, the risk of downshifting is if you're too hasty about it and you don't really know what the strategy is and you downshift and you get into trouble like the individual I said, you get a lower paying job, more stress. So you need to know what the reasons why you're downshifting and don't let it be your first solution to it. You got to think through it.
Yeah.
And you need to know your roles,
Yes.
exactly
Yeah.
what your responsibilities, right?
But from the employer's perspective, the risks, though.
Okay, let's go to traffic and then we can. You have that question?
Yep.
Okay.
But rumor has it he's the one I'm leaving you for.
Kiss 92 traffic.
On the AYE towards Tuas, an accident after Penjuru Road exit, congestion till Clementi Avenue 6. KJE towards PIE, breakdown before the PIE Tuas exit. PIE towards Changi, vehicle breakdown after Bukit Timah Road. CTE towards AYE, slow between Yio Chu Kang and Ang Mo Kio Avenue 1. And finally, KPE towards ECP, heavy traffic between Buangkok Drive and Tampines Road.
All right, it is Happy at Work Thursday, and we're talking about downshifting. Absolutely nothing to do with manual gear shifts, if you know what that is, because now they all train with automatic, right? Transmission. So we're talking about downshifting at work, and you asked Adrian a question, Tim.
From the employee's perspective, right? I mean, sure, we want to be inclusive, we want to be understanding. You know, we offer flexi work arrangements, but what are the risks from a company level to be encouraging of your employees to downshift?
I think it's more of a manpower planning issue. If everyone wants to downshift at the same time, then it's not possible.
Yeah.
But then again, to be fair, if everyone is asking to downshift at the same time due to stress, something's wrong with your company. You're probably burning them out too fast, or you're hiring maybe a different. You need to hire people with different set of appetites.
If you downshift someone, does that mean that your old role has to be filled, or you're taking the role of someone who you're downshifting to? Is there going to be a shift in your manpower or your employment sort of,
It could be either. So once again, it's very role specific, company specific. The employer or the bosses need to have a discussion. And to be fair, I think the employee who's thinking of downshifting should, once again, as I said earlier, provide a timeline. Kind of like, I want downshift next week, unless it's a medical emergency.
Yeah.
You have a elderly parent who is unwell, or a child who's taken ill,
or new.
or new.
Yeah.
Okay, to your point though, supposing I'm an employee, I'm thinking of downshifting. How do I approach my boss about? I wouldn't even know how to start this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you bring it up to your boss and ask for a downshift?
Just have that. That's not. Excuse me. Can we talk about? Can we have a conversation about some changes in my career right now? In my personal life.
Okay.
I mean, it can be as easy as that.
Okay.
And one thing I must say is this: it's going to be very unpopular for me to say this, but if your boss is not supportive, go somewhere else.
What if there's no role for you to downshift to? Does this require the employer to create a new role?
The onus is, once again, if there's no possibility in the organization and you have to downshift, you can downshift on your own externally and figure it out. But once again, as I said, you have to plan. Finances are a major thing, especially in today's $8 broccoli, organic broccoli age. You have to plan your finances. And once again, it has to be part of your career strategy.
Right.
It's not something on the front.
And I mean, even then, right, when you talk about strategies and all that, it pays to have that strategy planned out for your boss as well, because he's going to be asking you questions like, you want to downshift? For how long? What do you need from your downshift? What are your concerns?
Yeah.
What are your stresses? How can we help you? He needs to know this as well.
Correct. That's why I always say present a business case to your boss.
Okay,
Not
plan it
just
all out.
plan it all out.
Okay, let's talk about planning that approach to the boss when we go on the Big Show TV. Here's a new one with Ian Dior. It's Tattoos and You.
This is brand new. Here's a tune that's
Okay, so it's kind of like a business plan, because you need to go in with a plan, right? Firstly, you need to make sure that your bank account is well secured with enough money. And then you need to tell your employer how much work you realistically want to do because you've been doing too much, or you're too stressed. And then how he's going to replace that position of where you were in, whose position you're going to take place, and how long is this timeline? What is a realistic timeline to downshift?
I think if you're planning a downshift, maybe anywhere about
3 months?
3 to 6 months. But once again, downshifting should not be your first port of call solution. Okay, if you're feeling burnt out, you got to ask yourself, why am I feeling burnt out? It could be because the processes are bad. It could be because there's short of manpower. Have that conversation with your boss.
Your boss is an idiot. It could be as
Then
well.
that could be
That'd be a bit tough now, okay? Because after you have this conversation, it may turn out that it may not be a downshift that you actually need.
Correct.
Maybe you just need a break, a sabbatical for a
A
little
new
bit.
job?
Perhaps.
I mean, some people just need that.
And let me share a fun story with you. So very recently, I spoke to one of my clients who was feeling very, very burnt out. And he was telling me how much work he had to do and everything. And I said, when was the last time you took a vacation? He says, what's that? So he never took a vacation because there's so much work to be done. And once again, you're in a catch-22.
Yeah.
Because there's so much work you think needs to be done, you don't take a break, you get burnt out, and then you... So I said, okay, why don't you just take a break? Okay, take a 1 week off, shut off your phone, just step away from everything, re-strategize, and then come back with a plan.
You know what he needs? what you were telling us earlier, Angel, a steepcation.
Sleepcation.
sleepcation,
Yeah, sleepcation, yeah. Where you go specifically for them to, make sure that you're able to sleep at night. They sit next to you and they pat your head. No, I'm joking. It's all blackout curtains and music.
When do I sign up for one of those?
Winston has come on our Facebook page and he says downshifting may result in you being forgotten, out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
You may no longer be able to upshift even when you're ready again.
That's true, and that's why you have to message it properly. That it's this is a period of my life where I want to do a downshift and it's temporary. So I
Okay.
think the messaging is important.
No, yeah, that is a real concern because there are so many people who want jobs nowadays. Generations coming out of school. People moving up. You're also worried to be replaced permanently. Yeah.
And everyone's replaceable.
Yeah.
So is downshifting the step right before retirement? Because everyone on our Facebook page is saying, unless you're looking for a retirement role, then yes. Sam has said you must be able to upshift after downshifting. And then obviously Winston also came on and said, you might be forgotten because out of sight, out of mind. So would this be, this doesn't sound like it's a role for your Gen Zers, because they're too new in their careers.
Yeah.
You're millennials as well, kind of like, it feels like it's a role for people who are maybe 50s, 60s, ready to slow it down.
Well, once again, the definition of downshifting and
It's
more importantly,
different.
your narrative is important because
Yeah.
I could be 41. I downshift to a much lower role, but I'm doing my MBA.
Like a home-based role instead of a regional role
correct.
kind of thing.
Or even a half pay role because I'm doing an MBA. And then once I come out of this program, I'm going to be re-equipped to take something bigger. So then once again, you could accelerate.
But you also need to speak to your boss that these are my plans and
Yeah,
this is
correct.
where I hope
That's
to be.
actually a good thing to say to your boss because he's going to be thinking, this is an investment, right? I give you some time off right now.
Yeah. I'm paying you less anyway.
Yeah, raising your qualifications. Next time when you come back, you'll have more to offer and contribute.
So for something like this, right? I mean, this example that you said, I'm going to go do my MBA, I work less, I get paid less and whatnot. But when I come back, I'll be so much more qualified. Do you have to agree with your boss that you will have that job waiting for you to get to that role? Does it have to be a
Probably
written agreement?
No, nothing's ever cast in stone.
Okay.
So some companies may even give you a 6-month sabbatical.
Yeah.
To guarantee you your job back. Some companies may give you a 6-month sabbatical, but not guarantee you your old job back. So there are various permutations around it. But
Do all jobs offer you sabbaticals?
No.
No. Okay.
But you can declare your own. See.
Isn't that quitting?
Yep.
And how long are sabbaticals? To know that you can come back and hey, I've got my job.
I know there's this company. If you work 8 years in the company, they'll give you a 1-year sabbatical at half salary and guarantee you your job back.
Oh, that's paid holiday.
Yeah, basically it's paid holiday.
Half salary while you're on
it's not
sabbatical.
Yeah.
It's not even no pay leave, no?
Wow.
But after 8 years,
Yeah.
it's half salary.
That's all right.
Yeah, but after that you're bonded by another 4 more years. So once
You got to
again,
really
it's-
love the company to
Yes.
stay.
Yes, correct.
But job security, at least not only will you have a job, but you'll have a job for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds all right.
Yeah. Once again, I'm sure there's a hidden
There's a clause.
clause somewhere about
The
it.
fine
Like,
print
you gotta,
or something.
Yeah, you got to offer your firstborn child to them. I have no idea. Some little hidden clause somewhere. But
fresh blood.
fresh blood. Right. But I think it has to come with a strategy, and it's once again, if you have an elderly parent who's unwell, and you got to take care of that elderly parent,
Yeah.
and if you're the only child, right?
Yeah.
That is valid reason enough for me to take a downshift. And when things improve, things get better, you can hop back up again. So once again, various reasons. I think many of the reasons are valid. You just need to have a strategy around it.
Are there ever times where employers are so understanding that downshifting your role because, say, an elderly parent, they'll keep your salary as is, but they'll say, take some time off, do half a day as well. You know what I mean?
I got a great story for you.
Okay, let's do it on air. Traffic coming up.
Kiss 92 traffic.
On the AYE towards the MCE, heavy traffic at Portsdown Avenue exit. Opposite direction, AYE towards Tuas, accident after Penjuru Road. KJE towards PIE, breakdown before the PIE Tuas exit. And on the PIE towards Changi Airport, vehicle breakdown after Bukit Timah Road. And of course, other areas, always heavy around this time. CTE towards AYE, KPE towards ECP, and BKE towards Woodlands.
Peak hour traffic everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, alphabet soup.
Yeah, so we're talking about downshifting with Adrian Choo of Korea Agility International. Before you jump into your story that you wanted to share, Adrian, we have Tanke on YouTube that says, will downshifting affect your performance appraisal?
Oh, this one must know.
I think if you're having a discussion, a proper discussion with your boss about the KPIs expected of you during the downshifting period, I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but once again, the narrative is important. You know, if you're, some people might be embarrassed to say that they are burnt out, therefore they want to take a downshift because it might affect people's perception of them.
Okay.
So,
Okay, as long as they don't own self call their downshift, meaning I just start slacking at work.
Yeah,
yeah, it's not quiet quitting.
Quiet
bad.
quitting, yeah.
That's worse. So once again, there's a strategy to it.
Okay, so what was the story you wanted to share?
So you were asking about how supportive companies can be with regards to downshifting. So this is a totally different story altogether. So I know this individual, 43 at that point in time. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Okay, and the company, you know, you're entitled to 14 days of outside outpatient leave, 60 days of medical leave. When it was taken up already, right? And it was quite a severe case, chemotherapy and everything. The company kept him on full salary for 1 year. Full salary. He didn't have to turn up for work. Kept him on payroll for 1 year, full salary, to support him on his journey.
Yeah.
And he was improving all the way to the end of the first year, but he was still not good enough to go back to work.
Yeah.
The company then kept him on half salary for another 12 months.
Wow. So 2 years.
Just so, besides supporting him, because he was with the company for a long time, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Not a very senior person either. Okay, the company kept him on half salary for the next 12 months. And one of the reasons was, besides helping him with the cash flows, because he was the sole breadwinner,
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure that his medical insurance was covered. The
Oh.
company was still covering the medical insurance, medical bills and everything.
Interestingly, I
Yeah.
know of someone exactly like that as well.
Amazing company.
Yeah.
He passed away after the end of 2 years, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
But you know, the amount of goodwill that
Yeah.
everyone, his teammates all covered for him and everything.
Yeah.
It was just simply amazing that there are companies out there that still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who got diagnosed with cancer. Company backed him up all the way. I think he was out maybe more than a year, maybe close to 2 years. And then I saw him out and about, and he was still with the same company.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was super amazing.
Okay, I have a question. MOM, okay? Are there any regulations in place to protect downshifters?
No.
No? Not yet. Not yet.
You gotta go to TAFEP for that or something, right? All right, Adrian, any final words before we wrap up and kick you out of the studio?
Well, I think downshifting is quite acceptable in today's day and age. You just need to know what you're getting into, what you're not getting into, and have a strategy towards it, timeline it, know what you want to do, know what you don't want to do. And as always, if you need any advice, just drop me an email, info@careeragility.org.
All right, this song might be for you, though, if you're thinking of downshifting. It's I'm So Tired with Love and Troy Sivan on Kiss 92.